Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to CoreLight's Spiritual Weather Report for February 2021. This is Brad Laughlin, and I'm here with my spouse, Leslie Temple-Thurston. We're here in South Africa, and it's always delightful to be with you. We love these monthly calls, and it's just a beautiful field of love that we create together. So I hope you'll bear with me. I'm just going to check real quick and make sure that the recording is working, making sure we are set to go for our call today. Looks like all systems are go. So I wanted to start by welcoming everybody who may be new to CoreLight, and also welcome to all of our longtime CoreLighter friends and family. We've got people who've been with us for decades, doing the CoreLight work for decades, and I know some of you are very, very new to what we do. So welcome to all of you. Everybody's welcome here. And just in case you're new, just a quick little rundown of how these calls work. So the way it's working now is that Leslie remains in silence, and she gives a transmission of healing energy during the call. It's called Shakti in the East. And I start the call by offering guided meditation, and then I'll speak about the prevailing energies that are affecting all of us. And we'll also talk about the spiritual principles that are most helpful for us right now. We're in such challenging times, such times of such change that these calls are really meant to be a comfort and a place where we can all come to be together in the energy of love and healing. So as I said before, you're all welcome here. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to the call live or if you're listening to the recording in the future. I know most people do that, listen to the recording in the future. Either way, it's fine. We'll speak a little bit about what that means. But I just want to say that there's time at the end of the call for questions and answers and sharing. So if you're on the web, if you're calling from the internet, you can type your questions in on the Q&A board. And I'm sorry, if you're on the phone, that's not possible. But anybody can always email us questions in advance. The email address is courses@corelight.org. You can also find it on our website, and you simply just send us a question or a sharing, and we love to hear from you. And we'll close the session with a brief guided meditation or a prayer, whatever we have time for. And we try to keep the calls to roughly 2 hours. Sometimes they go a little bit long, and if you have to leave before the call ends, it's not a problem. You can always listen to the recording later. And we send the link out by email. The link to the recording goes out by email, and it's also posted on YouTube. So, okay, well, I think without further ado, why don't we start with our guided meditation? So I invite you to get comfortable and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Close your eyes and just relax. Breathe long, slow inhales, long, slow exhales. And as I mentioned before, Leslie remains in silence on these calls, and she gives a transmission of Shakti, also known as healing energy or unconditional love. And as you breathe and as you relax, just allow that beautiful transmission to come into your body. And it's not only during the guided meditation, but it's also during the call. We invite you to be meditative throughout the call and can receive the transmission throughout the call. And as I said, it doesn't matter if you're with us live or you're listening to the recording. we're all part of this field and we're all connected. And at these levels of reality, time and space don't really exist. They only exist in the third dimension. And so we invite you now, as you breathe deeply and relax and let go, to tune in to these other levels of reality beyond time and space. And this is where we're all connected in the heart and in love. And we'll all receive this transmission of light that comes through during the call. It's a field. And we all participate in that together. We actually generate it together. Even if you're not with us live, you're still participating at those other levels. So just try, I know it sounds a little confusing and contradictory, so try not to think about it. Just be. Just allow yourself to let go and be. Long, slow, deep inhales. Long, slow, relaxing exhales. Breathing in the light and the life force that surrounds you. Breathing out any tension that you might be holding on to. Breathing in the love. Breathing out any stress. Breathing in the present moment. And breathing out any worries about past or future. Just giving yourself the gift of the present moment, letting go and relaxing. As you breathe, I invite you to make the inhale longer than the exhale. Try a few breaths where you count to 8 on the inhale. You count to 4 on the inhale and count to 8 on the exhale. Give that a try. Let's do 3 of those. Inhaling to 4 counts and exhaling to 8 counts. Just relaxing deeply, letting go. Feeling the tension leaving your body as you exhale. And now let's all do a muscular relaxation from head to toe. And you can visualize a warm, viscous liquid like honey pouring over the top of your head, relaxing all of the muscles that it touches, starting with the scalp. Feel it pouring over your brow and over your eyebrows and down to your eyeballs, to your eye sockets, and allow your eyeballs to just fall back into the sockets, completely relaxing them and letting them go. feeling this warm honey pouring over your ears and your nose and your cheeks and your mouth, your jaw, relaxing all of those muscles, relaxing the back of your tongue. When we can relax the back of the tongue, there's a whole region of the body that relaxes. Back of the head, the neck, the shoulders, the jaw. And just allowing that deep letting go. And feeling the honey continue to pour down your body. Feel it pouring down your back, the upper part of your back and your chest. Pouring down your arms. Relaxing your arms all the way down to your wrists and hands and fingers. Just letting go. Pouring all the way down your torso, relaxing the abdomen and lower back. Relaxing the pelvis. Especially the psoas muscles, the psoas that run down the front of the hips on the right and the left. That also relaxes the whole region of the body, the whole pelvic region, if you can just allow those muscles to let go. Relaxing your legs, the thighs and the hamstrings, knees, lower legs, front and back, ankles, feet, and toes. Just letting go. Remembering your breathing. Breathing in the light, the warmth. Breathing out the tension and the stress. And now I'll be quiet for a moment, and let's all do another scan of the body from head to toes. And relaxing any place where you might still be holding on to tension, breathing light and healing energy into those areas. Just relaxing and letting go. If you're just joining us, that's okay. We're just doing a guided meditation. You can just take a few moments to close your eyes and relax. And then we'll begin our call. Just letting go. Let's put our attention on the root chakra. And if you're new and you don't know what that is, that's the base chakra. It's at the base of the spine. And just by putting your attention there, it naturally relaxes and opens that area. You don't need to know how to do anything. Just relax and put your attention there, at the base of your spine. And you'll feel, probably, the root chakra opening. And then let's drop our grounding cords from there down to the center of the earth. And again, you don't have to know how to do anything. If you can't feel it, that's okay. You can just visualize a grounding cord from your root chakra going all the way down to the core of the earth. And feel your energy connecting with the core of the earth. It's very grounding, very healing, very anchoring. And let's all feel gravity gently pulling us towards the earth. And feel where the body connects with the earth through the floor or the chair. Just be with that place and feel how Mother Earth supports us from beneath. As gravity gently pulls us towards her, she holds us up. And just be with that feeling of support. And now let's relax so completely into the embrace of Mother Earth that you feel like a little baby being cradled in the arms of its mother. Just letting go into the support of the earth. Nothing to worry about, no concerns about the past or the future, just being right here, right now, with this deep state of relaxation, letting go, and feeling safe, feeling held, feeling supported, nurtured by the Mother Earth. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, just being. And now let's draw the earth energy actively up into the soles of our feet. Feel that earth energy coming up into our legs. Feeling it coming all the way up to the waist, right up just to the root chakra and a little above. So just be with this. And visualize and feel like you are sitting literally inside the earth from the waist down. You can visualize it as some part of the earth rising up to meet your waist, anchoring you in a beautiful, grounding way. Breathing into this. And just allowing yourself to really feel grounded, really feel like you're part of the earth. You've merged with her from the waist down. And now let's also bring the earth energy up even higher. Let's bring the earth energy all the way up to the heart, a little above the heart, up to the shoulders, so that you feel like you're sitting inside the earth from the shoulders down. Just visualize that. So you're literally grounding your whole body from the shoulders down. You're in the ground. It's very relaxing. You can just let go and feel that beautiful, loving support of the earth. And now let's bring the earth energy up even higher. And let's bring it all the way up to the top of the head so that our whole body from head to toes is sitting inside the earth. Literally cocooned inside the earth. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling of grounding and relaxation, letting go, safety, healing. Just allow it. Just go yin, as we say. Yin being the feminine principle, the receptive principle of energy. Just go yin. Letting go. And now I invite you to open your crown chakra. And just in case you're new, you don't know what that is, the crown chakra sits on the top of the head like a crown that a king or a queen would wear. So just visualize that. And if you can, feel it. And you don't need to know how to open it. You just set your intention that you'd like it to open. And you can literally just will the crown chakra to open. And it feels like a lotus flower on the top of the head. Sometimes it's called the 1,000-petaled lotus. So just feel that lotus opening up petal by petal on the top of your head. Opening up and up and up. Unfurling petal by petal on the top of your head. You can feel it like a funnel opening up and out. The small end right in the center of your head. So allow the crown to open. And it's okay if you're not feeling this, by the way. If you're not feeling what I'm talking about, it's actually still happening for you at some other level of consciousness. You don't even have to be able to feel it. Just trust that it's happening. If you just bear with us for a few more moments, we'll be finished soon. And so feel, if you can, and visualize the crown opening on the top of your head like this 1,000-petaled lotus, and then feel and visualize the light of the celestial realms pouring down from above like a golden white rain, like a misty, gentle rain, gently pouring down into your funnel of your crown, into your aura, into your physical body, filling you up with golden white light. Warm, gentle. It has a blissful energy, so it's joyful, it's uplifting. As you fill up, you might feel a smile come onto your face. And just allow that. Allow yourself to feel happy. And if you want to cheat, you can turn the corners of your mouth up. And scientifically that is known to, when you smile, even if it's a fake smile, your brain thinks something's happy, thinks you are happy, and thinks something nice is happening to you. So it starts releasing the happy hormones. So you can get happy by faking a smile, and you can receive a whole dose of happy hormones just by smiling. So just I'm not forcing you to do this if you're in grief or there's something going on in your life that you just don't want to feel happy, that's okay. But if you'd like a little dose of happy hormones and you want to feel a little joy, then just smile and feel this beautiful golden white light raining down from above. Feel it filling up your body, filling every cell. Imagine every cell like a miniature sponge, soaking up the light. Trillions of little sponges inside your body soaking up this blissful golden white light of the divine. Filling up your aura. Filling up your body so much. It fills up your arms, your hands, and your fingers with light, and the light starts to shoot out your fingertips. Filling up your legs, feet, and toes so much that the light shoots out the tips of your toes. It's a very joyful experience if you can allow it. And again, if you're not feeling it, it's okay. Just visualizing it. And one day, if you set your intention, one day that will come. You will be able to feel it. But it's a very strong energy coming through right now. So I can feel that most of the group in that space. And this is how we generate our field of love together. Just by being in this beautiful, relaxed state together, we do create that field of love and joy. So now I invite you to become aware of your physical body, which is completely merged with the earth, as well as completely connected to the celestial realms. So become aware that your body is the connection point between heaven and earth, so to speak. And just allow that. Allow your body to become aware of that. That it's literally both. It's one with the earth, it's made of the earth, and it is infused with the energy of the divine, the infinite spark that we all are. So just allow that, and I will say a prayer and an invocation for our call today. We call on the Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the self that we all are. We call on all our guides, all the teachers who surround us in the highest love and support. We invite you into our sacred circle today. And we ask that you please surround us in a cocoon of beautiful golden white light and healing energy and love. And guide our conversation today into the highest love and the highest wisdom. and hold our hands as we walk through life in this incarnation into our soul's highest purpose. And we give thanks, knowing that this is so. And we give thanks for this opportunity to be together today, to share our love, to share this sacred circle, and to sit in this beautiful field of oneness together. Alalaho. Alalaho is Tibetan for Amen, and it means, isn't it wonderful? So, when you feel ready, I invite you to bring your energy into your body, become aware of your physical body, and start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Or you could just stay in meditation if you like, if you don't have to multitask. And when you're ready, if you want, you can open your eyes. Okay. Well, welcome again, everybody. Welcome to CoreLight's Spiritual Weather Report call for February of 2012. 2012, listen to me. I went way out into meditation. 2021. Oh. So, I was meditating on the topics for today, and I got a few different things to talk about. The first thing was peace, inner peace and outer peace, and recognizing that that's really what we all want in life. What everybody wants is peace, some form of inner and outer peace. And the truth is that there hasn't been much of it lately for most of us. And if you're one of the lucky ones, consider yourself blessed to have some inner peace or outer peace in your life. But for most people right now, it's elusive. I know so many of the people that I've been talking to, especially in the United States, we have people participating in our calls from all over the world, and Leslie and I are here in South Africa, but the majority of people, most of the CoreLight community is in the United States. And from what I understand, most people have really reached their wits' end, and people are feeling cooped up, and some feeling very, very despairing, and a lot of fear going around. Even if you're not in it and you happen to be one of the blessed ones, you're aware, I'm sure, of this going on with a lot of people. And it Leslie and I watched a movie on February 2nd. It's a movie called Groundhog Day. And if you've been around a while, you know that movie. It came out in the early 90s. And it's a classic. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And February 2nd is Leslie's daughter's birthday. So we usually celebrate by watching that movie because it's actually a profound, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a profound movie about consciousness. And it's sort of the Buddhist principle of reincarnation and how we evolve through each incarnation into our enlightenment. And so it's a funny movie, and it's actually a really beautiful illustration of that principle, although many people who watch it don't understand that. But there's a scene in that movie where Bill Murray, the lead, he says he's really in a very, very dark place. He's in the darkest place of the movie. He's really disillusioned and despairing. Life is dismal. Everything's dark. And he says, it's going to be cold. He's a weatherman, and he's giving a weather forecast. And he says, you want a forecast? I'll give you a forecast. It's going to be cold. It's going to be gray. And it's going to last you the rest of your life. And Oh God, I just love that scene. It's a classic because he really captures what the dark night of the soul feels like. And it's just it's the pits, it's when nothing works and everything feels terrible and it's never going to be right. It's never going to come right, and you don't see any way out of it. And I don't know how many people have been in some place like that or even close to that, but if you do, you resonate. And what I would say about this time that we're living through is perhaps this is our collective dark night of the soul as a planet, but especially in the United States. It seems to be the nadir, the low point of consciousness. And collectively, we seem to be hitting the bottom, at least, many, many people anyway. So again, if you're above this and if you're feeling joyful or even some kind of degree of joy or inner peace during your day, then really consider yourself truly blessed and know that if that's you, you are holding space for many people to go through their dark night. And in fact, I would think that most people who are listening to this call, if you're participating in this call, that you're in that latter category. You're one of the ones who's holding the light for a lot of other people. That's my guess. So, even if you're not in the dark night of the soul, I'm sure you can feel it and you're aware that this is going on in our world. So my heart really goes out to all those people in the world, but especially in the United States, who are down in the pits. And I know, there's so many of you who joining these monthly calls have been part of the CoreLight community for many, many years, and in some cases decades. So for you, I know that this is just a reminder, but if you're newer, if you're newer to CoreLight, or maybe the path of what we would call self-inquiry is possibly new to you, the path of transformation of consciousness is new, then what's happening right now is an unprecedented shift in the collective consciousness. And we're all doing our part to support that shift into this new paradigm. It's what Leslie always called the new paradigm of the heart. And so we're moving out of that old system of what many people call the system of separation, or the third dimension, whatever you like to call it, the system of patriarchy. But there is a new system being born right now. And I won't belabor the point because we do talk about it a lot, but that's what's happening. This pivotal moment in human evolution is happening right now. So I think it's important to remember that. Just be aware that that's why this is going on. There's not some terrible accident. It's meant to be. We need to go through this time. And so I wanted to just talk for a moment about what collective consciousness is, and how we function within the collective consciousness, and really what's happening in that collective consciousness right now. I think it's important to be able to witness that, be aware of it. And so if you're not familiar with it, the collective consciousness is a term that the famous Swiss psychologist Carl Jung used. And he talked about, how just as an individual has its own consciousness, has their own consciousness, so does a collective, because a collective is simply a group of individuals. So we're really all together in this, and we're all connected. We're not separate from each other. That's part of the old belief system. And the truth is that that's not true. We are not separate. We don't end at our skin. We're all connected. All of our thoughts and our feelings are shared, and our energy is shared. And I'm sure the vast majority of you on the call that you know that, because we've all had the experience of feeling each other, and walking into a room and feeling what others are feeling. Most people are empathic in that way. So we know that our energy is shared. And and the truth is that let's say many of the thoughts that we think and the emotions we feel are not even our own. And I think probably most people on the planet are not conscious of that. But that's the truth. That a lot of what we think is ours is other people. We're feeling other people. And I can give you just a quick example. I've shared it once or twice before, but I had this very vivid experience of this that I'll share with you quickly. It's a longer story, but I won't share the whole thing. Just to illustrate the point, it's like this. This is a mental concept that most of us understand, but to get an experience of it is very valuable. And what happened to me was, it was when I first met Leslie, before we were actually in our relationship. This was 30 years ago. And I was on a retreat with her in Santa Fe, New Mexico in the U.S., and we were driving across 2 days across the desert to Los Angeles back home. And I was in such an expanded state, and I was driving the car, and she was in the passenger seat. And it was late at night. We were driving through, and I was in one of the most expanded states I'd ever been in. I was in this very altered state, and very sensitive, very attuned, could feel so much. And as we were starting to come into the greater Los Angeles area, the Southern California area, after coming through the desert where there was essentially nothing, we came to the first little town, and it's kind of a little biker town, bars, mostly just bars. And I started having thoughts, and the thought that came through was, I want a beer and I want my chick. And I think about that, and I think, oh my goodness, I couldn't. It was so strange. The experience was so weird because that was not what I wanted. I wasn't thinking those things at all. I didn't want those things at that moment. And yet it kept persisting. It was like a beat in my head, and it was such an anomaly that I would be thinking, I want a beer and I want my chick. I want a beer and I want my chick. And I really didn't understand what was going on. And then suddenly it dawned on me that I was picking up the thought forms of the people in the little town, the people in the bars, mostly bikers. It was a lot of bikers there. And so, I never even used the word chick, but that was how it translated into my head. And so, so it was like, I really got it. And I wanted to wake Leslie up and tell her about my experience, but she was asleep, and I thought, okay, I'll wait. And we kept moving into Los Angeles, deeper and deeper into the city. And as we passed through a particularly rough part of LA, I started thinking violent thoughts. And I realized that I was in an area where I was familiar with this area, that it was an area where the gangs hung out. And the thoughts were so real, though. That's the point. The thoughts seemed like mine. If I hadn't known any better, if I didn't know the principle, and if I hadn't been so sensitive, I would have thought I was going crazy, because it was, or I would have at least thought the thoughts were mine. I wouldn't have known they were not mine. And the last example is we got closer to West LA, and there are more affluent areas through there, like Beverly Hills and so forth. And as I got into that area, I started thinking, I need to get a new car. I didn't need a new car, but I actually bought that one. It was like, took a little while for the penny to drop. That wait a minute, I don't need a new car. That's not what I need. That's another thought form that I'm picking up. And so it was one of the most powerful spiritual experiences of my life to be given some examples of what that feels like, to have a thought form and think it's my own, because it's just a thought. It feels like it's yours. but to know for sure that it wasn't, because I was not in those spaces, that they couldn't have been my thoughts. So that was proof for me of this concept of we are not our thoughts, and we share our thoughts with the collective, and how we're all connected. And so the next logical question that comes up for us is, how do we tell which thoughts or emotions are ours and which aren't? And, that's the big question. And I think, probably many answers, but maybe the primary answer is that there are two practices that we can all do that help us to become aware of what are our thoughts and which are not our thoughts and emotions. And the first practice is meditation. That helps you have a clear mind. And the second practice is what we would call self-inquiry, or egoic clearing work, or shadow work, or, making the unconscious conscious. There are many names for it, whatever you like to call it. And I know most of you on the call are familiar with that, so I won't go into it. But if you're new, we talk about that a lot in our book, The Marriage of Spirit. And that's available on our website and on Amazon. But that book is mostly about that work. And so those are the two practices that I think are vital for for everybody nowadays. If we're not practicing those things, even if we've been on a path for a long, long time, and we're not actively practicing meditation or egoic clearing work, we need to start again, because it's a time when you really do not want to get sucked into that collective dark night of the soul. You don't want to get sucked into that fear vortex, because it is strong, especially fear. Fear is one of the most contagious emotions of all. Have you ever been in a car or somewhere where suddenly everybody starts feeling afraid, and you feel it, you think you are afraid? And if you're not really clear and you're not strong in your own ability to hold your center, you get swept up in the fear. So I think that's a lot of what's happening to a lot of people right now. And I was very guided to share that. And I know it's not news for most of you, but it just felt important to name, to put into our sacred circle. If you happen to be feeling a lot of fear, just remember that it's probably not even yours. So you don't need to act on it. I remember for a little while when I was thinking those thoughts about the new car in LA, I was really planning my next day. I thought, okay, well, I have a free day tomorrow. When I get home, I could go shopping. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to go shopping for a new car. So we tend to do that. It's like we feel the fear and we think, okay, well, what can I do to protect myself? Who do I have to be afraid of, or what do I have to be afraid of, and what do I need to do tomorrow? And the mind starts churning. So, okay, to come back to this topic of what's happening right now in the collective consciousness, as we talk about almost every month, there's this extreme polarization that continues, that bifurcation of consciousness continues to accelerate. And, it's not hard for any of us to see that happening in the world. Like we've been discussing so much on these calls, the changes that we're experiencing in the world, they go way, way, way beyond these polarizations, especially politics and the choice between a political party or, right and left, or whatever differences you're seeing in your world. The changes that we're talking about that are coming for this new paradigm of the heart are so far beyond that. So it's a really good time if you've been caught up in, one candidate or another, one party or another. And I know it's, there are reasons to do that. There are valid reasons to root for one candidate or another. But it's really something to be witnessing right now and to try our best not to buy into. Because, again, it's a polarized consciousness. It's part of an old paradigm. And it's all going to get shaken up and dissolve anyway. So there's no point in it, really. And I hope that's not shocking or causes fear for anybody. That's not meant to. It's just that I think looking at the big picture, and seeing how traditionally we've been encouraged to buy into that system of siding with one side of a polarity or the other. We need to move beyond that now. We don't need to continue to do that. It's old. It's outmoded, let's say. So let's talk about one of the biggest polarities that we're all working with right now. Can you name what that one might be? Think about it for yourself. What polarity feels like maybe the biggest one for you right now? What I came up with was fear and love. Because of this massive amount of fear in the collective right now, I think that's one of the ones that's really up in our face daily. And I guess I want to say I'm not saying that it's not okay to have fear. Of course, we all have fear, and some of the fear may be our own fear, and that would be totally natural. In a time of great change, fear is going to arise because change usually brings about fear, and we're in one of those times. So it's simply a really, really excellent time right now to be practicing what we call witnessing and courage. Because as we know, courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the ability to move through the fear anyway. And that's what Nelson Mandela said about it. But also, if you don't know about witnessing, we talk about it a lot on these calls, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but essentially it's just a neutral observer. And if you read the Marriage of Spirit book, there's a whole chapter on witnessing in there. And it's a practice that I know if you've been around the CoreLight community for any length of time, you know the power of that practice of witnessing, finding that balanced place inside of us, holding the center, holding the tension between two sides of any polarity. And as Carl Jung said, that's what allows when we practice holding the tension and witnessing the two sides of a polarity, we allow for that option of the third, we allow the third option to manifest, the transcendent option. Okay, so we've got this massive shift happening in collective consciousness, this huge collective shift. And all of us are doing our parts to hold the light, to hold the center place, to hold the stability, to hold the peace, to hold the heart open, to hold a space of love. That's really the practice for any spiritual seeker, any person of consciousness. That's what we do. And so I just thought to take a look maybe at what that might look like right now, because I know so many people in the world are struggling on all the levels, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I've had, of all the many people that I talk to throughout the month, I hear from a lot of people things like, having trouble sleeping, having depression, having injuries or accidents. We can physically manifest this kind of discombobulated state, like feeling like we're being kicked around or knocked around a little bit. And so I guess what I wanted to say about that is that I'm aware that this can happen because we do a lot of our spiritual work at night on the dream plane. And if you're somebody who has been experiencing the tiredness If you're tired during the day, or you wake up in the morning and you still feel sleepy, it might be because we work at night. And so I know sometimes in the morning I wake up and I feel like I worked all night, and that's because I was. But, usually we're just not conscious of it, but we get that draggy feeling in the morning. And I feel like it's just important to acknowledge, excuse me, that, we're doing all kinds of things on the inner planes while we sleep at night. And we can be processing our own consciousness, and we can be interacting with the collective consciousness. And especially if you're somebody of heart, let's say, somebody with a high consciousness, you're probably helping at night at some level. And the way I like to look at it, the way Leslie described it to me long ago, was as though it's like we all siphon off shadow from the collective as a gift of service. We do it to the extent that we're able to. I'm not saying everybody does this, but I think it's sort of how it works. That's my sense of it, is that if you have a desire to serve, and if you have a desire for peace and love to prevail on the planet, then it's going to be natural that you help with that to some degree. And that's what's happening a lot at night. We're not even aware of it. We're not aware we're doing it on those other levels of consciousness. But at those other levels of our being, we know how to do it. We know how to transmute consciousness, and it's our gift of service to the world. So I would add here, it's really important in these times that we want to honor the body, and we want to make sure that we're practicing self-care as much as we need to. And again, I know we talk about this a lot on these monthly calls, but it would be remiss if we didn't mention it this time, because it's really up right now, to remember that self-care is not a luxury. It's the fuel that we need to be able to live in a way that brings love and brings joy into the world and into our body. If we want to be able to serve other people, we need to be able to rise to the occasion and hold a lot of light. And that means we need to have self-care. And I think a huge part of this is that in the old paradigm, the teaching was that self-care was selfish. And if we ever focused on ourselves, we were often told that we were bad or wrong. And I think it comes from, a lot of it comes from religion, different religions, not just one, many religions. And it's part of that that paradigm where martyrdom was held in high esteem. We were taught that the way to heaven was through martyrdom. And martyrdom is about self-sacrifice and burden-bearing. And we're taught that if we can give ourselves away completely and even, like wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, even into ill health and even death, then that is a saintly journey. And that, that was the path of the martyr. So we talked about this a lot in the course that I just offered a few months ago. And many people know about this. Many people, if you've been with CoreLight for any period of time, we used to talk a lot about how the martyr is a combination of a savior and a victim. It's a savior who is a victim. And many of us, especially people on a spiritual path, we tend to have some degree of that patterning going on inside us. And so it's important to be witnessing if you think you might have that in your life, and some of us still do. And this is a really, really good time to release that patterning. And if you have it, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, this is really common. I raise my hand here. I was running this not even that long ago. So it's not something to be ashamed of, not something that you have to get down on yourself about. That if you do, that if you feel that way, that would just be part of the pattern to punish yourself. It's just time now. It's just time to recognize it, to witness it, to see where we do it, and just to let it go. So, and this is a big subject, and we don't have time to go into it too much right now, but I just thought that it was important to mention. And I was also going to mention the course that I just taught on it, the New Paradigm of the Heart, Transcending Victim Tyrant Consciousness. We're in the process of editing the recordings of the course, and we're going to be putting it up on our website as an offering soon as a pre-recorded course. So you can be on the lookout for that, especially if this topic interests you. It feels to me like this is one of the keys to entering into the new paradigm of the heart, is to move beyond that process of victim, tyrant, savior, martyr, and also rebel is included in there. Excuse me for a second. I'm just going to take a drink of water. Excuse me. So all of that old patterning is changing right now, because we can all see where that path goes, and it's a dead end. And we know at this point that it doesn't give us the fulfillment that our souls came in here to experience. The soul comes in to experience joy. That is the purpose of our incarnation, believe it or not. So I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry I've said it many times if you've heard it, but it's a really good reminder for all of us. The soul's purpose is to come in to experience joy. So I thought we should just speak for a few moments about joy, because it's really one of the most important things we can focus on right now. And, joy goes hand in hand with self-care and with love. Those three things are like sisters: self-care and love and joy, and they're totally essential right now. So I also, just to be clear, I know that a lot of times when I talk about this, some people get offended, and they tend to think, well, you're just talking about self-indulgence. You're just talking about, being a hedonist. And just to be clear, that's not what this is about. We're not talking about hedonism. I think there's a part of us that's really, really afraid of hedonism, or at least being afraid that other people might think we're hedonists, or that they might call us hedonists. They might judge us. And when that happens, we tend to feel really guilty, really bad, wrong, quote unquote sinner. It doesn't matter if you were raised in a religion or not, but it's just part of the collective consciousness, and it has been for millennia. So it's there, and it's one of the reasons why we kind of run away from self-care, and why it's a great process to do. That if you practice self-care and you start to feel guilty, that's just a process to get through, because guilt is a wasted emotion. We don't need to feel that for this. But I think, really most of us who participate in calls like this, the truth is we're geared for service. We're people who actually love to serve and give and be generous. And so we want to help others. So the truth is we probably don't even need to really worry about becoming this, this archetype of this completely self-indulgent person, or this hedonist, the hedonist being the person who lives for pleasure only. So I think, we love offering service because it's part of our soul's purpose. It's why we come here. And it brings so much joy when we do it. to see other people get uplifted, and it's contagious, So when we live in joy, we naturally share it with other people. We serve, we give, we're generous, we help them become joyful, and then there's this positive feedback loop that gets generated, and then you become more joyful because they got more joyful, and then you can help others more, and they can help others more, and it becomes this snowball effect. So I kind of feel like that program, and it is just a program or a habit, let's say, a habit of thinking, a habit of a way of being, that we shy away from self-care out of the fear of being called selfish, or the fear of a religion telling us that we're going to be punished because we're selfish or something like that. I feel like those days are done. We're finished with that. It's now this new paradigm, and we need to find let's call it a balance point. I know I was talking about this with a friend over the past month, and his comment to me was, well, wait a minute, but how do I know? How do I know where that point is? How do I know if I'm practicing self-care and, that's my spiritual journey? How do I know I'm not just being self-indulgent? Where is that line? And it's a really good question. And I feel like, that's part of this journey that we're on. We're learning where that balance point is, where that line of service to self versus service to others sits. And it's a path that we're all walking right now. And so I speak from my own experience, and I speak from talking to a lot of other people about this, and that is, you may find that if you lived a lot of your life in that patterning of martyrdom and self-sacrifice and burden bearing, you might have gotten a little burnt out, and maybe you got very burnt out. And then what happens is when you finally tumble to that realization that that's not the way to go, even though you might have been doing it out of love and service and all of that, you find that maybe the pendulum needs to swing for a little while to the other side. So you may need to practice self-care a lot more than you realize. It might help you just to become more functional and just gain a little strength in the beginning. And your friends and your family may look at you weird, and they may wonder what the hell's gotten into you, because you're not there for them in the same ways that you used to be. And they might even judge you for it. But the truth is that that's okay. And if you need to take that time to recover your sense of yourself, then you just need to do it. And especially if it's your body telling you, if your body's telling you it needs that time for your own healing, then you need to give it that. Again, it's not, self-care is not a luxury. This is our fuel. This is what helps us to keep going so we can serve and so we can be the beacon of love and joy and light that we came in here to be, which is our purpose. So we've talked a lot over the months about this. This is all pretty much a reminder for most people if you've been on the calls, but it just seems to be one of the main themes for our times, and it's what Spirit really wants us focusing on. So just to touch on this a little bit is important. The self-care, the practice of self-care, the practice of love, and the practice of joy. And I found myself wondering, on last month's call, we ended with an exercise, and I invited everybody who listened to try an exercise over the past month, and I'm just curious how it went for you. The exercise was to wake up first thing in the morning and ask yourself, who needs my love today? Who should I give my love to today? And if you weren't on the call, you could practice that in the next month. But if you did practice it, I'm curious, please, send me an email or type. You can, if you have a sharing or question, you can type it in to the Q&A board if you're on the web here. But I'd love to hear from you about it if you had an experience with that. I've found it a profound exercise, and I know many have. I've heard from several people that have. So I guess another exercise that we could add to that, for the next month, is to add the practice of joy, to literally make joy a practice. So you would ask yourself when you get up in the morning, maybe after you do your love practice of who needs my love today, who should I give my love to today, you would say, what would bring me joy today? What would bring me joy today? And to remember that very often joy and self-care go hand in hand. So this might be dovetailing with your self-care practice. And I'm curious, I wonder how many of you have a practice of joy and a practice of self-care. My guess is that everybody has a practice of self-care, but what about joy? Are you really giving that to yourself? Are you really taking the time to focus on it? And if not, it's time to. We need to do it. It's what Spirit is asking of us. And, what a great time to do it. If you can bring yourself to do it, I'm not trying to be a love and joy Nazi. I'm not saying you have to, if you're in a place where you're grieving or you're really, really down and you just need to be with your grief and your loss, that's okay. I'm not trying to yank you out of that if you don't feel like it. It's very important for the heart to have its due. And if you just need to grieve, then that's what you need to do. But the truth of it is that we can only go as high as we're willing to go low. And so the grief is important. The hitting the bottom of the dark night of the soul is important, to witness that place and go down there into those shadows. And then when we come out the other side, we can reach new levels of joy and new levels of love. And we can share that with other people. So this is the shadow work, or the practice of making the unconscious conscious that I talked about earlier. We've come full circle. That's what this is about. Both go hand in hand. They're not separate. And so I think we're almost complete, and we'll move into the questions and sharing in a few moments. But maybe before we do, I just want to list a few things for a joy practice, just in case there might be some people on the call who haven't been doing this and you need some support. So one of the number one things to bring joy, especially right now, is creativity. It's a fantastic time to do some kind of creative something, whatever the heck it is. Painting, drawing, some kind of art. It can be dancing, singing. It can be going into nature and making a little mandala out of elements from the forest, or simple things like bringing home something simple from nature and creating a little simple centerpiece for your table from it, or whatever. Just something to brighten your space, or to allow that creative energy to move inside of you. Singing, dancing, listening to music, spending time in nature, journaling. Journaling is a creative process. The process of writing, if you're a writer, that sometimes brings a lot of creative energy flowing through. I saw an article on one of the, I forget which website it was some online forum where there was this practice of activating the vagus nerve. Do you know what the vagus nerve is? We've talked about it many times before. You probably do, but just in case somebody doesn't. The vagus nerve runs the length of the body from the brain down the body. It connects the brain and the body. It's the largest nerve. It goes sort of in front of the spine throughout the body. And when it gets activated, it really calms you and it soothes you and it brings joy. And so some of there were three practices that activate the vagus nerve, and I thought I would just share them with you. And it was funny because these are the things that I've been doing. I've been doing these during this lockdown time faithfully every day. The first one is singing. There's something about singing. The vagus nerve is connected to the vocal cords. So singing brings great joy and great creative energy through. Another thing is getting in cold water. And I've always loved that. I'll take a hot shower and then I'll turn it on full cold for a little while. And then I'll go back to hot and then go to cold. And they say that process of the cold water, even if it's just splashing cold water on your face, that can activate the vagus nerve. And the other thing, which is fantastic, is breathing. So a breathing practice, like maybe when you're starting your meditation, to do long, slow, deep breaths. And they say that one of the most effective ways to activate the vagus nerve is to do the shorter inhales and the longer exhales, like we did in our beginning guided meditation today. So those are a few things I thought of. And obviously, you can make your own list of things that bring you joy. But it's great to have a list so that when you're, if you're down in the depths, if you're experiencing that dark night of the soul, you can look at your list, and maybe on your list is to write in your gratitude journal. And you might say to yourself, "Oh, I don't want to feel grateful right now." But if it's the only thing you can muster, maybe you write one thing on the list, and it's a beginning. But it's important to do something every day, if you can, to move towards joy. Okay. There's a lot more I was feeling I could share today, but I'm wanting to make sure that we get to the questions and sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and open up to the questions and sharing. And we had a few people write in by email in advance. So I'll start with those. And if like I said, if you're on the web call and you want to post something on the Q&A board, go ahead and do that, and I'll check those when we're done with the written in questions by email. Okay, so the first one that came in was from Patty. And she says, is the pandemic a quote-unquote lifting of souls and intended for greater purposes? Feels like a spiritual harvest. Challenging, thought-provoking, growth-provoking. Yes, it is. Indeed it is it not? So I would say, there are many ways to answer your question, but what I would say is that the pandemic definitely has a very high purpose. And as you can see, it's changing the world, and there's a lot of debate about, what's actually going on behind the scenes. Should we take it at face value or not? And we don't really know right now. But let's not go there. But whatever it is, there's a very high purpose. And we focused a lot on this in the March, April, and May 2020 spiritual weather reports, and especially the May one, because I invited my friend Anna Breitenbach, the animal communicator. Many of you know, she was the guest speaker that month. So she's one of the world's greatest, in my opinion, animal or interspecies communicators. And she had a conversation with the virus and talked to it, and we learned a lot from that. So if you haven't heard the May 2020 Spiritual Weather Report, you can go on to our free resources page on our website. Just go to the CoreLight.org website and click on free resources on the main menu, and you'll see the monthly call is there, and you can go back. I think we keep about a year's worth of old calls there, and you can go check it out. It was very powerful. But just for now, I can summarize a few of the key points that were in that call. And one of them was that the virus is here because at one level of our being, we invited it to come here. So it doesn't matter whether it was a man-made virus or it's a natural occurrence, and all of the human machinations going on behind the scenes, whether or not any of that stuff's happening that we sometimes hear about, that doesn't even matter. We all have an agreement with this virus, and it's here to serve us. And it may not look that way, because there's so much fear being generated around it. But the virus brings a lot of gifts with it, and we've seen a lot of those gifts. It's helped everybody slow down. It has helped nature regenerate. What are some of the other things? We all have had to take a closer look at death, and that's a spiritual practice. It's a very powerful spiritual practice. Carlos Castaneda called it taking death as our advisor, if you've read his books. It's a very powerful way to live fully, is to look at your death. And that's a whole conversation we won't go into, but I think you get the point. A lot of people have gotten to spend a lot of time with their families, and a lot of people have gotten a lot of alone time, and so those are gifts. Anyway, you can name your own positive high purposes for this virus, and it's good to ask yourself what that is for you. But I would also say, one of the points from that call with Anna from May of 2020 was that, the virus is here to serve us, and it will leave when we've got the gift. When we receive the lesson that we negotiated with this virus to give us on the other levels of consciousness, then its service will be done and it will go. And I think that's the key point. So we still haven't gotten it yet, apparently. It's still around. So I think taking more time to look at the purpose of it would be a good thing. And anyway, go back to your question. You talked about it feels like a spiritual harvest, and I'm not totally sure what you mean by spiritual harvest, but I would say, yeah. I mean, it certainly has. It has brought about a quickening, let's say. A friend of mine calls it the ascension accelerator. We go through these periods of an ascension, of an acceleration of our ascension, our ascension in consciousness. And so we can look at this time of COVID as an ascension accelerator. And if you want to call it a spiritual harvest, maybe that's similar. Maybe that's what you're talking about. But essentially, it's giving us an opportunity to grow spiritually in profound ways. And it pushes us against our edges. It forces us to look at our shadow. There's something else I could share here. I kind of hesitate to bring this up because it can create misunderstandings and confusion, and so I'm a little hesitant to talk about this, but I think I'm supposed to. I'm getting a prompting to talk about it. So let me try this, but I'm just prefacing what I'm going to say by saying, please don't tune out, just listen carefully. And if this offends you and you think that it's really strange, just bear with me, because there's more to it than what you're about to hear. It requires an explanation. So please, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be brave here and bring it up. So please bear with me and don't hate on me. But I remember Leslie's guides said to her many, many years ago about this transition time between the old paradigm and the new, which is, we're right in the thick of it right now. They said it's the separating of the wheat from the chaff. And when I first heard that, I thought, what? I mean, that just sounds so biblical. It sounds like something that would come from the born again Christian community. And I'm not denigrating the born again Christian community, but it's like, I know that a lot of a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, well, that just means all the sinners are going to hell and the rest of us who are chosen are going to heaven. You know, it kind of like when we hear that phrase, that's what the mind does. But Leslie's guides did not mean that. What they were talking about, they explained it very carefully. They talked about a bifurcation of consciousness that would happen in these times, these so-called end times. The end times simply, it doesn't mean everybody's going to hell. The end times means that it's the end of a paradigm and it's the beginning of a new one. And that also, it doesn't mean we're not going to go through our trials and tribulations. There certainly is more to come. There's a bumpy road ahead for us. But this bifurcation of consciousness, I think, is what we're all witnessing more and more and more. We talk about it almost every month now, that we see the changes that everybody's going through, and we see the changes that we're faced with personally, and the collective changes that we're going through. And I mean, doesn't it seem like, it's the choice between fear and love in many ways. But it's a choice of, it's almost like, let's say this, at a soul level, it's as though we're all having to choose whether we're ready to move into a higher dimension, a paradigm of the heart, if you will, or if we need more lessons that can be learned in a third dimensional world where there are victims and tyrants and power and powerlessness. And there's no right or wrong about this. There's no good or bad. There's no judgment about it. Some people need to have more lessons in a third dimensional world, and that's okay. And some of us don't. Some of us feel like, all right, we're done with that. We're finished with victims and tyrants. We're finished with power abuse. Let's move on to love. Let's move on to the heart. And like I said, a lot of it is about the choice between fear and love. And so if we take actions based in fear, instead of being able to witness the fear and allow it to pass through, and just recognizing that it's just a vibration, it's not who we are, and rather allowing higher consciousness, the witness, the neutral observer, whatever you want to call it, or the part of us that knows that we are love, that higher self part of us, the part of us that's connected to the higher self. If we can connect with that part of us, then we're moving more into the paradigm of the heart. Whereas if we can't do that, if we need to act on the fear, if we need to really believe in the fear and take actions on the fear, then we might need some more lifetimes in the third dimension. And again, it's not a bad thing. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. And most people, by far, probably everybody on this call, I'm assuming, most of us are choosing to ascend in consciousness. And there's this huge wave of energy moving in that direction. And if you know how to ride the surfboard, the surfing is great right now. We are out there hanging 10, having a ball. Really, if you tap in at that level, it's an exciting time. It's a time of inspiration, actually, a time when you can really practice joy in a big way, and creativity and love in a big way. And if that's not you, that's okay. It's just maybe important to know that that's a possibility for you, that you can intend that, you can commit to that, and know that you'll be taken there. We also notice that some people, who are choosing to act on fear are moving into, like, it's almost like every day it becomes a wider gap, right? They're moving into a whole new reality, and we are moving into a whole new reality. There's to really put it very simply, and this, I'm sorry if this sounds crude, but it's like, the love reality is moving in that direction, and the fear reality is moving in that direction, and they're bifurcating. And every day the gap is getting wider and wider. That's how it feels to me, and that's what I hear a lot of people sharing, that they see, spiritual teachers and seers, and I'll bet you're experiencing that as well. So we're all getting exactly what we need. There's nothing wrong with any of it. It's perfect in its way. And to remember that the pandemic is not some horrible tragedy. It's not some terrible fate that has befallen us. We're not victims. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of our path awakening. We knew we'd be getting this at some level of our soul consciousness. We knew it. And we can rise to this occasion. So I hope that answers your question, Patty, and I hope that provides some inspiration around this, because the truth is it's a very inspiring time. And I don't mean to make light of the suffering. I know many people are suffering. Many are sick. Many have died. And there's a lot of grieving, too, and that's highly appropriate. So we often talk on these calls about the African grieving ritual, where, we do allow ourselves to grieve, go down into the grief deeply. This is what the Africans do. But then they remember to come out the other side into the joy when it's time. And the joy is, like I said before, you can only go as high as you're willing to go low. So the grief and the joy go hand in hand. All right, so the next question is Linda P. And I'm going to summarize. It was a long one, so I'm cutting some out. But she says, I'm staying in my witness as best I can and meditating off and on all my waking and would-be sleeping hours, and cannot discern what of the emotional, mental turmoil is my own egoic stuff to process, and what is the collective thought forms moving through me. How interesting. That's what we already talked about today. So, Linda, I hope that part was helpful to you. She says, it is important to discern is it important to discern which is collective and which is personal/egoic? I'm willing to, and we talked about that, I am willing to recognize and own my role in the evolving collective consciousness, the world I am co-creating, but I'm feeling physically challenged by it all, even at times overwhelmed. I'm fearful of, quote unquote, messing things up for myself and or others, with short-term memory unreliable and my body perpetually tired. How can I be impeccable enough to be of service at this crucial time? Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. So let me just tune in on what to say. So first of all, what I want to say is, Linda, you can't mess things up. There's no way to mess things up. It's not possible. So just first of all, let's let go of the sense of having to do this in a right way or a wrong way, and certainly let go of any judgment that you might have about yourself being good or bad, messing it up or doing it right or whatever. So that's number one. Number two, I guess I'm going to answer your question with a question. Could control be an issue for you? Is control one of your issues? And I ask that because surrendering comes to mind. It's really important for all of us right now. Surrendering is one of the most important things we can do, and it sounds like in your situation especially that would be really good. A really good practice is surrendering, to just let go, let go of any need to control this, let go of any judgment that you might be having around how this looks for you, even if it feels like it might be messy or chaotic. Those are the opposites of control. So we tend to fear the opposite of the thing we're holding on to. So even if you fear those things, still process surrender around them and surrender to what's right in front of you. So for example, you say if your short-term memory is unreliable and you're perpetually tired. So if you're surrendering to that, maybe this is not your time to be of service to other people right now. Maybe it's not your time to practice impeccability. I think you said to be impeccable. In the traditional sense, we at CoreLight, Linda's talking about Leslie's teachings of impeccability. There's a lot of teachings about impeccability, and it's a traditional practice. So maybe this isn't your time to practice that. Maybe the impeccable thing to do right now is to surrender to what is happening, and to just be with that, to just be with what is, and to love that for what it is, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, to just allow it. And maybe, maybe this means practicing your self-care. If you're struggling with short-term memory and you're feeling tired all the time, then self-care is going to be really important. And have compassion for yourself. Maybe this is a time when you need to ask others to help you. And I'm guessing that maybe that's a process. Maybe that's something that you've had trouble with in your life. If you have issues with control, that might have been something hard for you to do, to ask for help. But my question to you would be, do you have others in your life who can help you right now? This might be the time to reach out to them and to focus on that. And so there's one more thing. Let me just focus here. This is for all of us. This is not just for Linda. I would say to let yourself be loved, you need to let go of control. Control is the ego's, control and ego are synonymous. So when we practice letting go of control and becoming receptive, we can allow the love in. So it's about, it would be about letting go of any attachments that you have to feeling, a need for control, a need to safeguard and protect, a need to hold on tight to the familiar. Because, the truth is, massive change is happening for all of us. Massive change. Every single one of us. If we're not in it yet, we're going to be going through it. The collective is going through it. It's all about change. And so this is the time to surrender. It's the time to do all these practices that we were just talking about for Linda. It's true for all of us. But especially for you, Linda, let yourself be loved. Let yourself be cared for. And that means you need to let go of control. So I hope that helps. And I send you all my love. I keep you in my prayers, Linda. And you're with me in my heart. And Leslie as well. And so just feel the love of us and the CoreLight community coming to you. Wrap yourself up in it like a blanket. And stay in touch with me. Let me know how it's going for you. And I think the last question I'll read here from the emails is this one, and then we'll go. I'll see if there's anything on the Q&A board. And again, a reminder: if you want to share or ask a question, you can write in on the Q&A board. Okay, so the next one is from Lynn W. She says, I was told that meditation is the one therapy that rebalances all the templates/koshas. And I'm going to insert something here. A kosha means essentially a sheath in the Vedantic philosophy, and there are 5 of those sheaths that surround the body. And so she says, I was told that meditation is the one therapy that rebalances all of the templates/koshas. Could you please explain the mechanism of how this works? When we arrive at the level of the unified field of consciousness, how does the infusion of this energy infuse itself into each kosha, or each of these 5 sheaths? Essentially, it's part of the subtle body, I would say, more or less. I don't claim to be a Vedantic scholar. I am not by any means. I know very little bit about it, and I've got lots of my own experience in meditation with the sheaths and the chakras and how the energy moves. So I'll share from my own experience, and I hope this helps. My experience of going into very deep meditative states is that when we relax deeply enough, we let go so much, we surrender so deeply that there are other forces that work within us and around us at that time. And the energy work that happens, it essentially goes to the places that it's needed the most. So we're given what we need. We have a lot of spiritual teachers and guides that work with us. And when we're in those deep, deep meditative states, we can feel that, we're aware of it, we can feel the movement of the energy. And we're not, at least my experience of this is that we're not in control at that level. So at least I'm not in it. Maybe some people are. But what comes to me to share with you, Lynn, is that in terms of your question is about the mechanism and how does it work. And so I would have to say I don't know, but my experience is that it happens at these unfathomable levels of divine intelligence. And I've been blessed enough to have a few experiences of stopping the breath, stopping the heart, and stopping thought, and being in that very, very deep state of meditation. And when that happens, it's beyond description. It has to be experienced rather than talked about. And so meditation brings you to that place of deep, deep, deep relaxation if you practice enough. And I've heard some teachers describe enlightenment as very simply a deep, deep, deep relaxation. So to answer your question, Lynn, I'm sorry I can't give you a Vedantic scholarly answer, but I can only tell you that at those levels of deep meditation, the energy coming in is going to be worked with by other guides, other beings, and moved it naturally. There's a divine intelligence that moves it where it needs to go. So I hope that helps. And I'm sorry I cut your question a little short because it was a long one, so forgive me. But let's move on to the Q&A board. And now this is new for me, so bear with me while I go and find questions. Okay, so we have quite a few here. Let's see. What is the term bifurcating? I've been hearing it quite a bit lately. Bifurcating just means a separating. It's a polarizing. It's a path that when something bifurcates, my interpretation of it is that one trajectory is going, like, let's say for example it's going up, the other one where it breaks off starts going down. And so if you follow those trajectories of the bifurcation, they keep getting further and further apart. The chasm widens between the two. So that's bifurcation. The next question or sharing is same person, Tammy. Hello, Brad. Even though many of us have heard about the topics you speak of, joy, peace, vagus nerve. It's always wonderful to be reminded of ways to experience these energies and practices. Thank you for sharing this information with gratitude. Oh, thank you, Tammy. It's very sweet. I'm glad. Sometimes I feel like a broken record, so thanks for sharing that. Dale says, suggestion, to get better rest before you go to bed, tell yourself, tonight while I sleep, I call my soul back 100% to work on myself only. Or, tonight while I sleep, I call my soul back 50% to work on myself and 50% to work on the collective consciousness. Oh, that's great, Dale. Thank you. I love that. I'll try that myself, especially on those nights where you just really need to sleep. The next one is Sarah. Can you talk about the role humility can play or is playing at this time? Can you talk about the role humility can play or is playing at this time? Absolutely. Well, humility is what Leslie used to call the most powerful, the highest state of consciousness there is, the most powerful spiritual practice there is humility. If you can only pray for one thing, pray for humility, because with humility, all things become possible. So I would say it's maybe the unsung hero of this journey because we don't talk about it very often. So I'm happy that you brought it up, Sarah. And to cultivate humility is the path to enlightenment. It's the path to all possibilities. And so I would just say, it can play maybe the most powerful role possible. So whatever humility practices you have, I would say go for it. So thank you for bringing that up, Sarah. And I'm reading here. Bear with me. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the questions. I'll refresh one more time just in case somebody wrote in while I started reading. No, and that's it. Okay, so we're complete, and it's perfect timing. We have about 10 minutes left. So why don't we use our final 10 minutes for a guided meditation or prayer. I haven't planned anything, so let's just see what comes through. So I invite you now, if you're multitasking, I invite you to stop just for the last 10 minutes or so. And let's all get comfortable and close our eyes and relax. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths. I'm just going to take a few sips of water because I've been talking a long time, so excuse me. Just continue breathing. Breathing in the light. Breathing out any tension or stirring up that might have happened from our conversation. Breathing in the life force that surrounds you. Breathing out any stress that you might be feeling in your body, especially any fear. Sometimes when we talk about these shadow pieces, sometimes fear gets stirred up. So breathe in the love and breathe out any fear through your heart. In fact, as we breathe, let's do some long, slow, deep breathing. Feel the light as you breathe. Feel it coming in through the top of your head from above. Golden white light, breathing it in. Breathing it all the way down through your body to the root chakra. Filling up your lungs fully, all the way down to the bottom. And when you exhale, breathe all the tension and stress out through your heart and let it transform into a beautiful light, a pink, soft pink light of the heart energy, the loving energy. Just visualize that alchemy happening inside you, where you're breathing in the light through the crown, filling your body up all the way down to the root, filling your lungs, watching the shadow and the stress and the tension get bundled up together and go out with the out breath through your heart and be transmuted into a beautiful pink energy that floats out and away from you like a balloon towards the horizon. It's just drifting away into the distance. Breathing in the light and love through the crown chakra. Feeling that light gathering up all the fear in your body, any fear you might be feeling. Breathing that out through the heart. Creating one of these pink smoke balloons that just blows away into the distance, out to the horizon. And let's just continue that practice for a few moments. Breathing in the love through the crown. And breathing out the fear through the heart. Seeing it as a pink balloon that goes all the way out to the horizon and disappears. And while we practice this, let's practice the shorter breath in and the longer breath out. So maybe a count of 4 on the in breath and a count of 8 on the out breath. Let's do that a few more times and then we'll move on to a new part of the meditation. A few more breaths, clearing the fear out of your body. Or any kind of negative emotion. If it's not fear, if you're aware that you have anger or grief or betrayal, envy, anything negative, any shadow, and just breathe it out, let it drift away. And remember, you can always cheat by putting a smile on your face if you want to help. Because as we transmute these energies, we naturally feel the love and the joy coming in. And now, let's visualize that our body is sitting inside the earth. We're so big that we fit inside the earth. Maybe see yourself with your feet sitting on the South Pole and your crown chakra at the top of your head on the North Pole. Let's continue this practice of breathing in the light and the love. And let's breathe out any shadow for and on behalf of the earth. collective consciousness. As you do this, recognize that this moves through you very easily, quickly. It's not a burden. It's not too much. It's just simple. It's a small amount. You don't need to take on the burden of the world. This is just doing whatever you can, and your soul knows what you can do. Your higher self knows. So this isn't about becoming a martyr and taking on the burdens of the world. This is simply sharing our love with the earth. Breathing in love and light through the top of the head, down all the way down to the root, and then breathing out any negativity, any shadow, out through your heart, seeing it as just a little pink balloon that drifts off to the horizon. And this is not a mental exercise. Don't think about it. Don't try to do it. Just allow it to be what it is in your body. Just feel it in your body. It's very joyful and uplifting. It's a gift of service. It's a practice that brings you into more joy and more love within your own self. And it's a way of sharing our love with the world. A few more breaths. And now, let's all feel and visualize our hearts like a beautiful, radiant sun inside the center of our chest, inside the earth, radiating and glowing a beautiful, loving energy. You can give it a color if you like, maybe pink, or green, or turquoise, some kind of healing energy. See it, feel it growing inside you. This radiant sun inside your chest is growing, glowing and growing, brighter and brighter. Till it fills your whole chest cavity. So much love inside you to give. Beautiful, brilliant sun, radiating love. Feel how happy that makes you, how joyful you become. And then let it expand beyond your chest cavity, beyond your skin, stretching out into your aura in the front and the back, until it becomes so big it encompasses your whole body and the whole earth. Beautiful, brilliant, radiant sun made of love, encompassing you and the earth. And let's pause right here and just feel that. This is the one heart, the one love that we all are. It's what we're made of. It's what we're becoming conscious of. becoming love. That is our path. Becoming aware of that. So just allow yourself to feel that and be that love. And feel it. It's big enough to encompass the earth. The love we have for all humanity, for the ecosystems and the plants and the animals and the forests and the rivers and the oceans and the mountains and deserts. This beautiful, beautiful, fragile blue planet that we call home for a few years. We're so grateful. We offer our deepest, deepest gratitude for this opportunity to be in these precious, beautiful bodies for a few short years, to experience this beautiful blue planet. It hangs in space like a little blue marble. This virtual reality we call Earth. These virtual bodies we call us. Deep, deep gratitude. Just feel the gratitude for this experience that we're given. It's such a gift. And so we say to the Great Spirit, say to Mother Earth, say to our guides, thank you, thank you, thank you. We thank you for this gift. The gift of these bodies, the gift of this beautiful earth, and the gift of this love that we are, the gift of the love that we share this time together in our sacred circle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alalaho. And so if you have time and you'd like to stay in meditation, I will sit in meditation for a little while longer with Leslie. And we'll join you. And if you need to get up and go, that's fine too. Just know that we send you all our love and we look forward to next time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. I'm deeply grateful for your presence and deeply grateful for all your questions and sharing. Until next time.